because I don't care what anyone says, quitting is not about willpower, it's a mental game. It wasn't really the beer that was the problem, it was my sanity that I had strapped around it like a noose. It was my sanity that I was afraid to lose. Have you ever tried to quit something and no matter how hard you tried, you couldn't? Whether it's junk food or alcohol or cigarettes or binge watching Netflix until 3 o'clock in the morning, you make up your mind, that's it, I'm done. And a couple days later, you're right back at it. That was me. But this time, I did something totally different. And I'm not going to lie, it completely went against my grain. I have never done this in my life, but I was so desperate that I had to be willing to try a different approach. Hi, if we haven't met yet, I'm Catherine. I am on a mission to clean up my life at 60. And it turns out that the answer I had been looking for all these years was hiding in plain sight, just beyond my failures. But I never hung around long enough to find it. Turns out there's one little missing step. And once I learned how to do that thing, oh my God, quitting got easier. And I mean, way easier. Not only did I break my addictive cycle with beer, I cracked the code for what I call the failure death cycle, where you try to quit, you fail, you give up, and you hate on yourself, and you do it over and over. By the end of this video, I'm going to walk you through the steps I took, and most importantly, the big, fat, whopping mistake that I made over and over and over that always catapulted me right back to square one. But I have to warn you, if you jump ahead to the end for the summary, you are going to miss the point. Because the secret isn't just in what I did, it's actually that I had to learn how to change my thinking in a couple little critical steps of the process that actually got me to the finish line. Only 10, maybe 15% of it was willpower. And I'll be honest with you, a low number like 10 or 15%, I could actually do that. And so can you. Okay, so like 3 months ago, I decided I was going to take a hiatus from beer. You know, it's not like it was so dramatic and it was upheaving my whole life. But somewhere along the way, drinking beer occasionally turned into daily, and 1 or 2 turned into 3 or 4. And I just decided, you know what? I was getting that beer belly, and I want to make healthy changes. It was non-negotiable because that's what my channel is all about, and that's what I want to do. And beer seemed to be a foundational problem for me. It seemed like the perfect starting point. So I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to quit. So I made myself a chart. I was going to check off every day as I quit, and I jumped all in. And that went great for 2 days. And I was running for a beer. I had a really stressful day, and I was like, oh, I can't do it today. And I just started drinking beer. So I brushed myself off, and I said, you know what? False start. I'll just start again tomorrow. So I did that on day 3. And something else happened that day, and day 3 was a flop. Fast forward to the end of the week, I had 5 do-overs in my attempt to quit drinking beer in the first week. 5 out of 10. Oh my God, I was so horrified. I had no idea how addicted I had gotten to this habit. So I had to keep going. And there's only one reason that I kept going, and I have never kept going past that point in my life before. And here it is. You are the reason I didn't give up. I created this channel to make some big life changes, lasting life changes. And on every video, what do I say? I am on a mission to change my life. Somehow quitting after a week doesn't exactly constitute a mission. So I knew I just had to keep going. So this is a special thank you to however many people are watching this, even if it's only 10 of you, which right now that would be about right, because you pushed me to keep going anyways, even though there was no video coming about how I quit drinking. I knew I just had to somehow keep going. Lesson 1, practice and build the muscle first. Okay, this lesson did not come to me until way later in this story. And I am preempting this story right now to stick it in at the beginning, because honestly, if I had seen the obviousness of this and how the stupidity of my approach from the beginning, it would have saved me weeks of self-torture and turmoil. So I am putting this in right up front right now. So here we go. If I joined a gym for the very first time, and I went in there and the trainer said, okay, here we are, and took me over to the lifting platform and said, here's a 100-pound deadlift. Let's see how many you can do. I'd laugh in his face. Duh, I can't do a 100-pound deadlift. Like, that's insane. That's obvious, right? But here's where the brain glitches. So on one hand, we can easily see our physical limitations and how they're a natural part of life. Obvious. But on the other hand, we have no qualms about shoving ourselves into the emotional equivalent of a 100-pound deadlift by announcing to the world and ourselves that we are going to give up our primary, biggest, possibly only coping mechanism that gets us through every day, through all the stress in our lives. We can't see it. Seriously, can you see how irrational that is? That is truly messed up. And then, on top of it, instead of just recognizing that the plan was completely broken from square one, we assume that we're the ones who are broken when we can't do the 100-pound emotional deadlift. And we beat ourselves up and think that we're a failure. That is seriously messed up. Lesson number 2, if you can't quit, what can you do? And do that instead. Okay, so let's get back to my story. How the heck was I supposed to keep going after 5 days of failure out of 7? The only thing I could think of was to try and find a silver lining. And I'm going to be honest, there wasn't much to work with. It was pretty scrappy, but you know, the truth is, I did not drink 2 days. And that's actually 2 more days than I have done in a very long time. And on top of that, on those 2 days, I did learn what it felt like to come home from a hard day's work and not just automatically pop open a beer. So I got a little experience. Lesson number 3, keep tracking, but stop judging. Okay, first of all, I'm going to apologize for that obnoxious warning I put in there, but I really wanted you to see how important this was. This step cannot be skipped, and you are going to want to skip this step. Just because I stopped quitting, trying to quit, does not mean that I could stop tracking, and I knew I couldn't. Because out of sight, out of mind, the day I stopped marking off days on that calendar was the day that I would just start drinking every day and never speak of it again. Nobody wants to look at failure. Who wants to track when half of the days, more than half of the days, are failure days? But you cannot skip this step, and here's why. New rule, no such thing as failure days. Okay, again, I'm apologizing for the warning. It was a two-part warning. I promise no more warnings after that. These are the two absolute critical steps where normally I would crash and burn. I actually kept going, and they're absolutely critical. Take the word failure days out of your vocabulary. I knew that I couldn't face those failure days. I had to stop calling them failure days. I had to be okay with those days because that is what I was looking at. I didn't have a choice. It was that or throw the chart away. So I had to find a way to be okay with those days. But it turns out that the days that I drank were actually just as critical to my overall quitting as the days that I didn't drink. And here's why. By allowing myself, giving myself permission to drink sometimes. Okay, if you have a really bad day, have a beer. It's not the end of the world. By giving myself that permission, I took the pressure off, and that gave me enough motivation to have some days where I didn't drink. Because I knew if it wasn't that bad of a day and I could muscle up enough willpower to get through one day, I could always drink tomorrow if I had to. I stopped freaking out about it all the time and I just started living. And on any day where I could get away with not drinking, I didn't drink. I call those the good days. And on any day that I felt like I had to drink, I didn't care. Doesn't matter. Because those were the days that got me through. It's kind of like using training wheels while you learn how to ride the bike. I mean, you wouldn't just take your 4-year-old and throw him on a two-wheeled bike and say, here, figure it out. That's really what we've been doing to ourselves when we don't give ourselves a little grace and mercy. And the truth is, the second thing that's so special about those days is I learned to be okay with myself the way I am right now, flaws and all. Okay, I'll get better. I'm excited to get better, but I'm actually just okay. And I stopped seeing it in this rigid black and white success, failure, success, failure. It turned into me just being me and realizing, you know what? That's just part of the process. Just keep going. So I did. Lesson 4, embrace slow progress and breathe into it. When I finally just flipped the whole equation upside down and became okay with having on days and off days, everything changed. It stopped being such a dramatic, life-changing big deal. You know, there was still no epic video on the horizon about how I quit drinking and lost weight and got healthy overnight. But you know what? I kept going. And I did it for a few weeks, and eventually I was at 3 days with no drinking, 4 days with it. Pretty soon I was drinking at least 50% less than I had been drinking before. And guess what? I lost 7 pounds without even really trying, even though I was still drinking sometimes. It really wasn't that big of a deal anymore, and I actually just got comfortable with my moderate behavior. Eventually, I just stopped pushing myself to go any farther because I was kind of okay with where I was. I had significantly cut back my drinking. It wasn't interfering with my motivation and my energy. I was working on my other goals. And I was basically just okay with it. I was just a normal person who kind of drank a little on the weekends, and it's not a big deal. The surprise ending. If you're relating to my struggles or getting some value from this video, please subscribe to my channel and follow me. Let's do this together. I can't promise that I can show you a straight line to success, but I can promise that it'll be honest and we can do it together. The good, the bad, and everything else too. So a few weeks ago, it had been about 3 months, I stopped tracking because I really didn't feel like I needed to anymore. I had a handle on it. I was okay with how it was going. And I had met enough of my goal that I just wanted to redirect my attention. I didn't need to track every day because I had developed a new habit of not drinking every day. And then a surprise happened. And it was just this week. The beginning of the week, by pure coincidence, I just didn't happen to have any beer in the fridge. No big deal. And the first time that I decided I wanted some beer, I was like, I could just run to 7-Eleven, 5 minutes away, and get some. But I just decided, you know what, I'll just skip it. If I want it tomorrow, I'll make that run tomorrow. And I did that every single day. I went the entire week without drinking, 7 days, without even trying. Now, at the beginning, I couldn't even go 2 days. Something inside me had changed. Lesson 5. I didn't quit beer, I quit being compulsive. Okay, so I admit going a whole week without beer is not really that life-shattering of an achievement. But for me, it was, because it was so easy. I wasn't even trying. I hadn't set out that week to quit drinking beer. It just kind of happened. I felt calm and I felt in control. Turns out it wasn't really the beer that was the problem. Beer is just a beverage. Okay, granted, not a very healthy beverage. It's just a beverage. But it was my sanity that I had strapped around it like a noose. It wasn't the beer that I had a problem letting go of. It was my sanity that I was afraid to lose. I had to gradually disentangle myself from it, and it wasn't going to happen in a day or even a week. I had to get used to not drinking every day, and I eventually found some healthier beverages or some other activities that I could substitute. And I didn't do it every day, I just did it some days. And eventually, I got comfortable with it. I learned to be moderate in my behavior. And it wasn't this insane dependency that I had on it when I started. Once I began to see that, okay, I guess the world's not going to come to an end if I don't have happy hour today, I built my muscle. I practiced. I got used to it. It took time, and it took me 3 months. If I'd known at the beginning, if somebody told me, oh, well, you can quit beer, no problem, but it's going to take you about 3 months, I would have given up before I even started. So don't be discouraged by that, because the truth is those 3 months weren't hard. That's the difference. If you thought you had to quit and it was going to be 3 months of torture, I know we don't want to wait 3 months, but the truth is it wasn't that hard when I did it this way. I know we all want instant results, but the truth is that is such a trap, and you end up making no progress at all when you do that. That cycle can steal years away from your life. The longer game is just easier. It's honestly significantly easier, because we're not pushing ourselves that hard. We're being loving and compassionate to ourselves. And when you finally do fly, you actually learned how to fly. You didn't just get lucky and catch a gust of wind so that you could soar for a few days and then crash and burn. It's a great, great feeling. Okay, so if you want to quit something and you can't seem to do it, here we go, in a nutshell, a summary of the steps that I did. Number 1, instead of committing to quitting, commit to simply tracking it instead and see how many days you can go without the habit. Number 2, focus on what you did right and stop obsessing on what you did wrong. Number 3, keep tracking no matter what and stop beating yourself up. Number 4, give yourself permission to have on days and off days until the on days feel normal and manageable, and you're no longer obsessing about it all the time, every single day. Welcome, by the way, to the moderation zone. Number 5, stay in a holding pattern in the moderation zone for as long as you want to, or frankly, even forever, because it's a way better place to live than in the insanity yo-yo zone. And finally, number 6, when and if you decide to quit altogether after that, you'll find the motivation or willpower needed to jump off from the moderation zone is not that big of a stretch, and it might even happen spontaneously, like it did for me. All right, for anyone who's still with me, I have a very special message just for you. The absolute biggest thing that I learned from this whole experience came to me on my bad days. Not on my good days, but on my off days. Because I learned how to love myself. Yeah, sure. It's easy to love yourself when you're being disciplined, but it's on the days that you had a total train wreck that the magic really happens. By forcing myself to keep going, I forced myself to look at the good and the bad, and I stopped labeling it as good and bad. I just realized it's just my life that I'm living. In every aspect of my life, I have good days and bad days. I don't need to freak out about them. And I learned to love myself, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what I didn't expect is that turned out to be the key to learning how to quit something or to become more disciplined. And I can't wait to start applying this in other areas of my life.